how one reaction decided the future of medicine. It began with hope, a single reaction that promised healing, relief, and control over suffering. Few realized it would also redraw the boundaries of medicine forever. At the time, the promise felt almost modest. Medicine had always advanced through incremental improvements, better tools, clearer diagnoses, refined techniques. Yet, this reaction hinted at something different. It suggested that suffering itself could be addressed at its source, not merely managed or endured. What appeared to be a technical breakthrough carried philosophical weight, because it implied that biology might finally be negotiable. To understand why this reaction matters today, we need to return to a time when medicine relied more on observation than precision. Physicians watched symptoms unfold, adjusted treatments through trial and error, and learned patterns through experience rather than molecular certainty. Outcomes varied widely. Healing often depended as much on the patient's resilience as on the treatment itself. Chemistry offered an escape from that unpredictability, a way to intervene with intention rather than hope. At first, the reaction seemed almost miraculous. It targeted specific processes instead of overwhelming the entire body. Small, carefully measured doses produced clear, measurable change. Symptoms eased in ways that felt almost immediate. Recovery accelerated. For the first time, medicine appeared capable of acting with focus instead of force, addressing illness without collateral damage. This shift transformed how disease itself was understood. Illness was no longer framed as a vague imbalance or an inscrutable condition. It became a chemical problem with a chemical solution. If a process could be identified, it could be interrupted. If a pathway could be mapped, it could be redirected. Biology began to look less like mystery and more like mechanism. Early successes built confidence quickly. Hospitals adopted the approach with enthusiasm. Training programs evolved to emphasize molecular understanding. Entire branches of medicine reorganized around this new chemistry. The reaction did not merely treat disease. It reshaped expectations of what treatment should be. Precision became the standard rather than the exception. But beneath the excitement, a deeper change was unfolding. The body's chemistry was no longer just supported or assisted. It was being actively steered. Reactions introduced from the outside began interacting with systems refined through millions of years of evolution. The intervention was effective precisely because it was powerful enough to override natural processes. This is where the story truly begins, with a reaction strong enough to heal and influential enough to quietly redefine what medicine itself would become. As the reaction spread through clinical practice, its precision revealed its greatest advantage. Targeted chemistry reduced unwanted side effects. Treatments grew more consistent across patients. Outcomes improved for conditions once considered resistant to intervention. The reliability reinforced trust, and trust accelerated adoption. Doctors began shifting their focus. Instead of relying solely on symptoms, they examined molecular pathways. Illness was mapped chemically, traced through interactions invisible to the naked eye. Interventions were timed and dosed with care, measured against biochemical markers rather than outward signs alone. Medicine moved closer to engineering than art. Yet, chemistry never acts in isolation. Introducing a reaction into the body alters a network designed for balance, not interruption. At first, the body adjusted smoothly. Systems compensated. Feedback loops absorbed the change. Homeostasis appeared intact, reinforcing the belief that the intervention was clean and self-contained. Over time, however, subtle shifts emerged. Repeated exposure changed responsiveness. Some reactions weakened as the body adapted, others intensified, overshooting their original purpose. Biological systems learned to anticipate the intervention, reorganizing around its presence. This is where early tension appeared. The same reaction that corrected imbalance began creating new dependencies. Treatments worked best when maintained continuously. When they were reduced or stopped, the underlying chemistry no longer behaved as it once had. What had been temporary assistance became structural support. Researchers began noticing patterns that challenged initial assumptions. Long-term use produced effects short trials never revealed. Interactions multiplied as the reaction influenced systems beyond its intended target. The chemistry was still precise, but its reach extended further than planned. Medicine had gained extraordinary power, but With that power came complexity. Chemistry was no longer just fixing problems. It was rewriting biological expectations, reshaping how the body defined normal function. The conflict reached its peak as medicine confronted an uncomfortable truth. The reaction that delivered control also demanded commitment. Once introduced, the body adapted around it, making absence feel like failure rather than recovery. Patients experienced a quiet paradox. Relief arrived quickly, restoring function and comfort. Yet freedom narrowed over time. Treatments that once rebalanced the system now sustained a new baseline. Chemistry had shifted the definition of normal, and stepping away from it carried consequences. Scientists studying these effects realized the issue was not error, but success. The reaction worked so effectively that biological systems reorganized in response. Feedback loops adjusted. Sensitivity changed. The body learned a new chemistry and incorporated it into its expectations. This buildup carried emotional weight because the choice was no longer simple. Continue treatment and accept dependence, or stop and face instability. Medicine had solved one problem, while revealing another, forcing difficult conversations about trade-offs that had once seemed unnecessary. Attempts to refine the reaction followed. Dosages were lowered. Intermittent strategies were tested. Combination approaches emerged to distribute influence across multiple pathways. Each refinement helped, but none removed the core tension. Precision had been achieved, but permanence came with it. This marked the turning moment. Medicine recognized that intervention always alters the system it touches. Healing was no longer just about correcting damage, but about managing long-term chemical relationships. Every treatment became a negotiation rather than a command. The reaction had delivered power beyond expectation. Now medicine faced a deeper question. How much control was too much, and where the boundary between help and dependence truly lay? The climax arrived with a shift in understanding rather than a single discovery. Medicine had not lost control. It had gained responsibility. The reaction that once promised simple healing revealed a deeper truth. Chemistry inside the body is not static. It adapts, learns, remembers. Every intervention becomes part of the system it touches, shaping future reactions in ways that cannot be erased. This realization reshaped modern medicine. Treatments were no longer judged solely by immediate success, but by how they altered long-term balance. The goal shifted from domination to guidance, from forcing outcomes to working alongside the body's chemistry rather than against it. The resolution continues to unfold today. Therapies are designed with exit strategies in mind. Monitoring replaces assumption. Precision is paired with restraint. Medicine learns when to intervene and when to step back. This story is not about failure. It is about maturity. Chemistry gave medicine unprecedented power, and power demanded wisdom in return. Healing became a partnership instead of command. What happened here reaches beyond hospitals and clinics. It reflects a universal pattern. Every time chemistry solves a problem, it reshapes the system around it. The future depends on whether we notice that transformation early enough. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future.